Da da da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. And in the meantime, if you've never popped into one of my lives before, I am Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside, and I say it like that because I am so in the inside that I am losing track of time, even having my schedule right there, detailed from hour to hour in what I need to do. And it's not that I'm not trying, but the moment the thought even happens, it's, and I'm staring off into space. And I'd like to say that's okay. Don't be tough on yourself, right? Right? You can't keep it all sorted into the main trunk of the tree all the time. But when something is consistently going on, right? And it's not like today. It has been off and on for the past couple of weeks that I find myself drifting off into that daydream kind of state. It was something me and my youngest sister Carolyn did all the time. It comes from trauma. This is my understanding, but at the same time, I don't see that trauma in my sister's upbringing, in those lessons that we just get naturally in our day to days. And yet she did exactly the same thing. And in fact, she still does it. I do it very rarely, but when I do, I notice. And I notice I'm doing it a lot. I'm doing it a lot today. For myself, I do believe it's because of those experiences that I had growing up, because that was how I escaped, if I was in a bad moment, right? And I couldn't get out of that space, right? I'd get out of that space, and it was an escape for me. It was a place to go when I was uncomfortable or in a situation that was on the verge of escalating into something uncomfortable. I don't know what's making me uncomfortable in this moment. Yesterday it was kind of a toughie for me because I had to do some government forms and stuff, and in that job to put the roof over my head, I so appreciated. I so enjoyed that job and helped me out so much. And in that reciprocation of gratefulness, I tried to be the very best that I could. And, in doing that, sometimes in these codependent relationships that we build unintentionally, for me, it was that need to keep the roof over my head that, I did kind of built myself to fit where possibly, right, I had outgrown that fit. That's the perfect analogy. I had outgrown that fit. And I was holding on in that codependent relationship, in my own fears that I wouldn't be able to find ways to keep that roof over my head, or that some of these really big worries and stresses in my life were just a set of imagination in my mind and weren't actually happening. Okay, so lead you into this video. I was getting ready. It was going on without me because I was in the shower getting dressed and ready, and then just a word caught my attention. Paid attention. A few sentences started seeping into me. And it is in this topic of projection, right? That sometimes, when things happen in our life, or reactions, cause and effect, right? That these feedbacks that we get, we get startled by them and we go, wah, rah, rah, you're a terrible person, and how could you do that to me, or say that to me, or do that to somebody else, or say something that's just made somebody all messed up in the inside. Well, this is Carl Jung's own words that, these are the projections of ourselves that we put onto other people. And again, I have to take a look at that, like I took a look at my sister and her spacing out, her going off naturally into other realms, right? Daydreaming, right? Imagining a better life for yourself and your family. My sister didn't have those traumas, and my sister does not project that way on other people, and so when they see these are aspects of ourselves, sort of kind of true. Okay, I'm not going up and arguing with Carl Jung, but my idea is that's all the same energy, right? And what's pushing at you and what's biting at you, that's the same energy where it is, right? I recognize it because of my hypervigilance and paying attention. But it looks so different. It looks like a different character. That's because it's a different character, right? It's not an aspect of ourselves. It's hard to say because in the end it is, right? Because it's all one. It is the problem. It's the something that isn't supposed to be in your realm, in your vicinity, in your life, right? But because we are projected, because that's the projection, is to make us think that that is something that is a part of us, and really it's just there to show you what's not a part of you necessarily. It can be, right? It can be. I could have easily picked those parts for myself. I could have, but right, grateful that somehow I recognized it as something that wasn't good for me, right? In those projections that we put on each other, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that that's a problem that we have. We recognize that that's a problem in that energy, right? And that's something that we're not doing right, that it is sticking in our energy, and it's something that needs to be brought to the surface to be recognized. And maybe not everybody recognized it, right? Everybody thought certain people in my lives were angels, right? This is why I treat people the way they treat me. That necessarily that a friend of mine might not be a friend to somebody else, right? Or that friend of mine has traits about them because Joe Blow is a friend of theirs, and Joe Blow is the one that doesn't rub me properly. But because that influence is on my friend, right? That is also not rubbing me well. So we got to be careful to attribute these projections as projections that belong to us. Those projections could be belonging to somebody else, and we are just rubbing with that somebody else. You find that quite often, um, narcissists and borderlines. They work they work together quite often, and and in that projections, quite often the narcissist can, it's not get the borderline to do what they don't want to do, even though that might be the intent, but it's the borderline, right? Grabbing for strings of hope, that dangling heights, that they're going to fall. And sometimes it's just this one string that's being offered for salvation or help, and right? And so we'll cling on to that, not recognizing quite often we are that projection, right? And if we're not that projection, we are the projection of somebody else's projection because of what we surround ourselves with. I recognize that some of these projections are trying to touch base, right? And in recognizing that, I recognize the projections that I can, right? That even though it's part of that energy, there's something there. That work has been done. Those lessons have been learned. Those boundaries are being respected, and those boundaries are being built. And it makes it so that we don't have to reject that part of ourselves. And we're not rejecting that part of ourselves. We're rejecting the projection and the character who has, right, kind of made it kind of untangible, undesirable, right? Right? Not our flavor of the day, even though it's part of us. It is part of us. But in the movement we're making forward, right, kind of makes it difficult. And, to each one of us, we get to feel things out for ourselves, make choices for ourselves, recognize or not recognize, right? That's something that's coming at you, right? Right? And you're going, oh, I can save that, or that's just Joe Blow, or I can take it. That technically and truthfully, we're not supposed to take it, right? Because just because it is a part doesn't mean that it's a healthy part, right? And those lessons will come across their path just like they'll come across my path, and change is inevitable when that happens, right? But I hope, in understanding that a little bit better, that maybe I'll recognize that, that I'm not the bad person in this. I'm not the one giving up on somebody, or I'm not the one to blame, to fault, right? That I'm the problem. And that's absolutely incredible, because I think there are a lot of people out there who think that they're the problem, and they're not the problem, they're the solution. And I'm just going to leave it right there. Like I said, today has been kind of messed up. Hello, Melvin. Hello. I saw you there, Parvane, when you came in. Let me give you some hearts there just to say it's nice. It's nice to see you. Melvin says, went to the pharmacist and got my pill allotment for the next 3 months. Good morning, Cindy. Going to be a good day. Optimistically, and in those affirmations, you are 100% right, Melvin. It's going to be an amazing day. Even though I'm not staying on my distraction battle plan today, and I haven't been truly, I've been tackling away at it, but the lesson is there to see how distracted I truly am. uh, some of those distractions are put in place, and I have no control over them, because those are the lesson and then those revelations right? Those changes sometimes are instant, and you can do a 360 and end up in the same place. You can do a 180 and end up on the opposite side of the problem, right? Or you can do a 45-degree turn just so you can munch and digest the lesson that you've just taken in, knowing you're going in that direction. That's why it's a 45-degree turn. You turn that way, right? Just to get that action in that thought. But it doesn't mean to go all the way around. Digest it for yourself, because you really, right? Those projections and those lessons and projections, right? Even though technically, um, they're not always true, right? Otherwise, I would have given up on some human souls that are in my life in this moment, right? You know, we all we all have to decide for ourselves how much we can take, right? For me, I look at the intent, right? If the intent is there, I'm going to believe in what I see and what I feel and what I experience, even if nobody else does, right? And and if that is projection, I suspect that I will be painfully sorted out with a 360 and put me right back to the start of that lesson, or right, maybe there's a little bit of movement. And in my movement today and in my showing up maybe a little bit better tomorrow in that distraction battle plan, right? Maybe that'll be the evidence for somebody else to get on that bandwagon and give it a try. Okay, you guys, I'm coming in for a card. Just a couple of minutes. First perspective. And again, thank you so much, you guys, for coming in and keeping me company in these interesting conversations, right? It's all in good intent. It's all in giving back, and it's all in believing in myself, right? A little bit more than I believe in others. And I think that is okay, right? Everybody has their day. It is in that innovation and that evolution of ourselves that, right? If what Carl Jung is true, right? That will carry on in the lessons who are in the realm of psychology and understanding these kind of things, right? I believe if it's all that same energy, that common sense of recognizing and accepting and being willing to accept a truth, right? Truth is in the pudding. Truth is in the pudding. My mother made good pudding. Yeah. Her chocolate cooked pudding with the rubbery skin on top when it was dry, and the flaky coconut on top. Oh my goodness, it was amazing. I could eat a whole bowl of chocolate pudding without even getting my spoon in the bowl, because all I would do is that warm pudding, I would just peel the skin off the top, take a couple of minutes, wait for it to dry, and go all rubbery again, peel the skin until that whole bowl of pudding was all gone. You had to have that coconut on it. Yeah, chocolate and coconut goes well together. Okay, you guys, here's this word: believe. Wow. Just the word that I needed. Just the word that I needed today. And the first thing that came to my mind is in the conversation that I was just saying. So I'm going to come in after my live show. I'm going to come in and I'm going to take in the lesson for myself, knowing that there's a lesson specifically for me in that. I believe that, right? And what does the believe say underneath? Believe. What we believe dictates our behaviors. And that's our truth, right? And me walking away, right, from that energy that pushes, that possibly might be something I just projected, right? But possibly not. You guys, believe, what a great word. I have to believe in myself. As I delve in deeper, I get to recognize that, you know, I am just as much my own teacher as anything that I sit in on in conversations, and whether or not it's a thought leader online, or if I'm taking in content on one of my favorite metal detectorists, or I'm sitting in a university session and taking it in. I could be sitting at the bus stop, and somebody, you guys, these people pop into my life all the time, and we have these amazing interactions, and you know what? And they go off and I never see them again, right? Or if I do see them again, it's a totally different conversation in the moment, right? So, something to contemplate, something, right, to actually really contemplate in, because it's in my understandings, right, that this world is going to be opened up to me the way that I want it to open up to me. Okay, you guys. It's my good chair. Again, thank you, Parvane. Thank you, Melvin, for popping into my lives. I'm going to send a little bit extra out to you guys. You know, yeah, just keep in mind, everybody deserves to be treated with respect, to feel at the very least that they're not unwelcomed, but also at the same time that it's safe, right? That it's safe to, well, be around what we project. Okay, you guys, that's my good cheer. See you Monday. It's Friday. Tomorrow I am offline. I won't be on social media tomorrow. A day off from that. I'll probably be right here, go for a walk. Gonna get out today. I'm trying to get out every single day. Today is supposed to get up to 16 Celsius. I am so excited. The warmest day of the year so far. And I'm going to get a little piece of that. Okay, you guys, have a great day.